April 8, 1943. 27,000 feet above the rolling fields of northern France near Lille. The air is crystal clear, thin, biting cold. Inside the cockpit of his Focke-Wulf FW-190A5, Oberleutnant Ralph Hermach smiles behind his oxygen mask. Through the curved canopy, he watches them climbing laboriously toward his formation. 16 massive Republic P-47 Thunderbolts of the American 4th Fighter Group, making their combat debut over occupied Europe. These are no sleek Spitfires, no nimble Soviet fighters he's danced with on the Eastern Front. These are barrel-shaped beasts, greenhouse canopies perched on corpulent fuselages, wings that look too small to hold up 7 tons of metal, engine, and ammunition, giant 4-bladed propellers churning the sky like ship screws. Hermach keys his microphone. "My God, they've sent us flying milk bottles!" Laughter crackles across the channel from his wingman and the rest of Jagdgeschwader 26. Below, the Americans strain upward, their 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasps, radials roaring against the weight. Major Donald Blakesley, commanding the 335th Fighter Squadron, scans the sun for threats. Many of these pilots are former Eagle Squadron veterans, fresh off Spitfires. They know the Thunderbolt feels like flying a truck. But the Hermach and his comrades see only comedy, easy meat. The Germans circle higher, like wolves above a herd of lumbering buffalo. They have fought since 1939, Poland, France, Britain, Russia. The Americans? 0 days in combat. Hermach rolls his FW-190 into a shallow dive, lining up for the bounce. What none of them realize in this moment of arrogant laughter is that they are witnessing the arrival of the machine that will systematically dismantle the Luftwaffe's fighter force. Within 18 months, those flying milk bottles will carry 8 Browning half-caliber machine guns that fire 6,000 rounds per minute, enough to saw a Messerschmitt in half in under 2 seconds. But today, the Germans laugh, and the Thunderbolts climb on, oblivious to the storm about to break. What happens next would begin to change everything.
Hermach's Focke-Wulf 190 drops like a stone, sun at his back, closing the gap in seconds. His wingman follows. Cannon and machine guns sparkle. Tracers stitch across the sky. One Thunderbolt rolls violently, trailing smoke. Another peels away, engine coughing. The formation scatters, rookie instinct overriding discipline. On the radio, American voices crackle with urgency. "Bandits, 6 high! Break left! I'm hit!" Blakesley's voice cuts through, calm, clipped. "Steady, lads, reform on me." But the Germans are already climbing away, laughing again. Easy. Too easy. Back at Abbeville-Drucat Airfield that evening, the pilots of Jagdgeschwader 26 gather around the scoreboard. 3 Thunderbolts claimed, no losses. Josef "Pips" Priller, the grizzled Geschwader Commodore, slaps Hermach on the back. They fly like trucks, turn like freight trains, climb like pregnant cows. The nickname spreads instantly, Die dicken Amis, the fat Americans. Intelligence reports filter in over the following weeks. April, May 1943. The numbers seem to confirm everything. 14 Thunderbolts lost, only 3 confirmed German kills. Even the RAF, watching from the sidelines, raises eyebrows. Spitfire pilots joke that the best evasive maneuver in a P-47 is to unstrap and run around the cavernous cockpit. Across the channel, in training fields in Connecticut and Virginia, American pilots are dying faster to their own aircraft than to any enemy. The Thunderbolt's vicious torque on takeoff, its tendency to ground loop on landing, the terrifying compressibility in dives. 18 pilots and 41 aircraft lost in accidents before the first combat mission. Hubert "Hub" Zemke, commanding the 56th Fighter Group, stares at the wreckage reports and wonders if he's been handed a death trap. Yet something strange begins to appear in the combat reports the Germans dismiss too quickly. A P-47 returns to Debden with 21 20mm cannon holes and over 100 machine gun strikes. Another limps home missing half a rudder, engine cowling shredded. Damage that would have torn a Bf-109 or Spitfire apart. The massive air-cooled radial engine has no fragile coolant lines to rupture. Thick armor plate behind the pilot shrugs off hits. Self-sealing tanks smother fires. And when a P-47 does manage to bring its guns to bear, 8.5 caliber Brownings harmonize to converge at 300 yards, the result is not a neat hole or a trailing smoke plume. It is disintegration. One early report from a shaken Focke-Wulf 190 pilot. The American opened fire. My wingman's aircraft simply came apart in the air, wings folded, tail gone, like it was made of paper. The Germans file it away. Outlier. Lucky shot. They keep attacking from below, forcing turning fights where the heavy Thunderbolt bleeds energy. They keep laughing. But in the cockpits of the surviving P-47s, something is shifting. Pilots are starting to notice that when they dive, really dive, the Thunderbolt becomes something else entirely. Nothing in the Luftwaffe inventory can follow. And in those dives, 8 guns speak with one voice. The laughter is still loud, but it won't be for long. June 26, 1943, over the skies near Laon, France. Second Lieutenant Robert S. Johnson, a 21-year-old farm boy from Oklahoma, flies tail-end Charlie in a formation of 48 P-47s returning from escort duty. The day has been quiet, fuel is low, guards are down. Then the sun erupts with diving shadows. 16 Focke-Wulf 190s from Jagdgeschwader 26, led by Wilhelm Ferdinand Galland, younger brother of the legendary Adolf, slam into the American formation from above and behind. Perfect bounce. Johnson's Thunderbolt takes the full brunt. 20mm cannon shells explode across the fuselage. The canopy shatters. Hydraulic fluid sprays like blood. The engine cowling peels away. Fire flashes behind the instrument panel. Johnson is hit, shrapnel in his nose, fragments in his leg. He reaches for the canopy release to bail out. Jammed. A 20mm shell has detonated in the track, welding it shut. He is trapped inside a burning, dying aircraft at 27,000 feet. The Germans swarm. Shell after shell hammers the Thunderbolt. The big radial shakes violently. Controls go slack. Oil smears the windscreen black. Yet it keeps flying. A lone Focke-Wulf 190 breaks off from the pack and latches on to Johnson's tail. The pilot, identity still unknown to history, closes to point-blank range and opens fire again. Cannon first. The Thunderbolt absorbs the entire magazine. Then machine guns, belts empty. The German pulls alongside, staring. Johnson, slumped behind armor plate, glances over. He sees the enemy pilot's face clearly. Young, blonde, eyes wide. First, confidence, then confusion, then something close to fear. The German repositions once more, rakes the Thunderbolt with the last of his ammunition. Still, it flies. The Focke-Wulf 190 pilot shakes his head, gives a slow, almost respectful salute, and peels away. Out of bullets, out of answers. Johnson, blind through the oil-soaked windscreen, somehow levels the aircraft and points it west towards England. The engine coughs, surges, coughs again. 3 of the 4 main longerons, the structural spine, are severed. Control cables hang by threads. But the Thunderbolt refuses to die. It crosses the channel at barely 170 miles per hour, limping, trailing smoke. At Manston Airfield, it touches down with the engine quitting on the runway. Ground crew count over 200 holes. They stop counting. 1 cannon shell exploded inches from Johnson's head. Another detonated against the armor plate behind his seat.
The aircraft is a write-off. The pilot walks away. News of the incident races through both air forces. American engineers pore over the wreckage in stunned silence. They had no idea their creation could endure this much. German intelligence officers read the combat reports from JG-26 and refuse to believe them at first. Multiple pilots confirmed the same impossible story. One Thunderbolt soaked up everything a top-line fighter could throw and kept flying. A quiet realization begins to spread in Luftwaffe briefing rooms. The fat American fighter is not just heavy, it is unbreakable. And its 8 guns have not yet truly spoken. But they will. Soon.
July 1943. The hangars and dispersal huts of the 56th Fighter Group at Halesworth, England. Lieutenant Colonel Hubert "Hub" Zemke stands before a blackboard, chalk in hand, frustration etched deep. He has lost too many pilots, too many aircraft. The old rules, turn, climb, dogfight like the Spitfire boys, are killing them. Zemke erases the turning circles and climb curves he's drawn, starts over. Don't turn with them. Don't try to climb with them at low altitude. He taps the board hard. Use your weight, use your power, use your altitude, and for God's sakes, use those 8 guns. The secret is born from brutal necessity. The Thunderbolt is not a dancer. It is a hammer. From 30,000 feet, a P-47 in a full dive reaches 550 miles per hour, faster than any German fighter, even in a vertical plunge. Compressibility be damned, the pilots learn to ride the edge. They convert that speed into energy, zoom climbing back above pursuing enemies who stall out below. The tactic has a name now, boom and zoom. Pilots call it the Thunderbolt turkey shoot. Captain Walker Bud Mahurin, destined to become one of the first American aces in Europe, perfects it. Climb high, wait, spot the Germans below, scrambling to intercept bombers. Then roll inverted, push the nose down, the world blurs. At the bottom of the dive, the 8 Brownings roar, brief, disciplined bursts. German survivors describe it the same way, a wall of lead. One moment, a formation of FW-190s or BF-109s, the next, aircraft shredded midair, wings folding, fuselages torn open, cockpits erupting in flame. No graceful smoke trails, just sudden, violent absence. August 17, 1943. Schweinfurt, Regensburg, the deepest penetration yet. Major Dave Schilling leads 4 Thunderbolts from the 62nd Fighter Squadron against a swarm of Messerschmitt Bf-110 heavy fighters, Luftwaffe bomber destroyers bristling with rockets and cannon. The Germans are lining up for a head-on attack against the B-17s. Schilling's flight rolls in from 28,000 feet. Unteroffizier Hinrich Roth, rear gunner in a Bf-110, sees them coming. He opens fire at 800 meters, tracers smack into the lead Thunderbolt's wing. It doesn't even wobble. Then the American fires. Roth watches the aircraft ahead of him simply disintegrate. Wings shear off, tail separates, crew compartment becomes metal confetti. 2 seconds, 1 Bf-110 gone. 8 destroyed in under a minute. Roth survives, is captured, interrogated. His words are recorded verbatim. They came down like hammers from heaven. Their guns, it was not shooting, it was destruction. Back in German headquarters, the laughter is quieter now. Reports pile up. Thunderbolts operating above 30,000 feet where German engines starve. Thunderbolts absorbing cannon fire and returning to base. Thunderbolts whose guns turn fighters into burning debris and heartbeats. The turbo-supercharged R-2800 maintains sea-level power in the stratosphere. The mechanical superchargers on BMW and Daimler-Benz engines cannot. Above 25,000 feet, the battlefield tilts decisively, and the Americans are learning to live up there permanently. A new sound begins to haunt Luftwaffe pilots. The deep, thundering roar of paddle-bladed propellers on the horizon, growing louder, closer. Death diving from the sun. Section 5. The tide turns. High-altitude supremacy and the fall of aces. October 8th, 28,000 feet over Bremen. Oberst Hans Philipp, one of the Luftwaffe's greatest aces, 206 victories, Knight's Cross with oak leaves, swords, and diamonds, leads his formation upward to intercept a wave of B-17s. His Focke-Wulf FW-190A6 feels sluggish in the thin air. The BMW 801 radio gasps, power falling off sharply above 25,000 feet. Philip knows the risks. He has survived Poland, France, Britain, 500 missions on the Eastern Front. But today, the Americans are waiting higher. At 32,000 feet, the Thunderbolts of the 56th Fighter Group roll in. Robert Johnson, now battle-hardened, the farm boy who refused to die in June, spots Philip's distinctive aircraft with its elaborate nose art. He pushes the stick forward. The dive is thunder incarnate. Speed builds to over 500 miles per hour. The paddle-bladed propeller screams. Johnson closes to 300 yards, 30-degree deflection. He squeezes the trigger. 8 .50 calibers speak as one. Strikes ripple along Philip's fuselage. The FW-190 explodes mid-air. No parachute. One of Germany's finest, gone in seconds. Philip's death hits the Luftwaffe like a body blow. If he couldn't survive the Thunderbolts, who could? Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring demands answers. The report lands on his desk in November. It is grim reading. The P-47's service ceiling exceeds 42,000 feet, higher than any operational German fighter can reach. Its dive speed approaches the sound barrier. Its armor, 3/8-inch steel behind the pilot, 1/2-inch bulletproof glass, armored oil cooler, turns it into a flying tank. Most disturbing, the rugged airframe can absorb damage that would destroy 3 conventional fighters and still bring its pilot home. Across the channel, new variants begin arriving. The P-47 D-22 with the Hamilton Standard paddle-bladed propeller, 13 feet of broad-chord fury. Climb rate jumps from a sluggish 2,200 feet per minute to over 3,000, matching or beating the best German fighters even at sea level. Acceleration improves, energy builds faster, and the sound changes. The massive blades bite the air so hard that the tips go supersonic. A deep, ominous rumble carries for miles. German ground troops learn to recognize it first. They call it Donnerschlag, thunderclap. When you hear it, death is coming. Hauptmann Heinz Knocke of Jagdschwader 11 encounters the new Thunderbolts in February 1944 near Hanover. He writes in his diary that night, "The Americans have learned to climb. We expected our usual advantage. They turned into us, climbed with us. When we broke away, they followed to 30,000 feet. Schmitt was caught, blown apart, nothing left but smoke and fragments. These are not the machines we laughed at last year." By March 1944, drop tanks, 108-gallon wing tanks, or 75-gallon belly tanks extend range beyond 1,000 miles. Thunderbolts can now escort bombers to Berlin and fight the whole way. The Luftwaffe's desperate tactic, ignore the escorts, go straight for the bombers, becomes suicidal. You have to fly through the Thunderbolt screen first, and the screen is no longer below you. It is above you, always above. Major Gunther Rahl, 275 victories, mostly on the Eastern Front, survives a March 6th encounter only because he is wounded early and forced to break off. Later, in a post-war interview, he recalls, "We saw them high, fat silhouettes against the sun. Someone laughed, 'Here come the flying pigs.' 30 seconds later, no one was laughing. They dove like an avalanche. 3 of our fighters gone on the first pass. Their guns fired in solid streams. Get caught in that stream, instant death." The laughter has stopped. In its place, a growing, gnawing fear. The Thunderbolt is no longer a joke. It is the hunter, and the Luftwaffe is becoming the prey.
April 1944. The fields and hedgerows of Normandy stir under the spring sun, but the real storm is gathering in the skies of southern England. P-47 groups, now equipped with the bubble canopy D-25 and later variants, receive new orders. Long-range escort is increasingly handed to the sleek P-51 Mustangs. The Thunderbolts are freed for a role they were born for: ground attack. Underwing hardpoints now carry 2 1,000-pound bombs and a 500-pounder under the belly, a load equal to a medium bomber of just a few years earlier. Zero-length rocket stubs appear, each launching 10 5-inch high-velocity aircraft rockets, essentially 105mm artillery shells screaming from the sky. The pilots call them Jabos. The Germans have a darker name, Schlechter, butchers. June 6, 1944, D-Day. Over 500 Thunderbolts stack from sea level to 30,000 feet above the invasion beaches. German fighters try to break through. They are massacred. Lieutenant Wolfgang Fischer of Jagdgeschwader II is one of only 3 pilots from his Gruppe to reach the beaches. He reports back, voice hollow. "The sky belonged to the Americans. Thunderbolts everywhere, at every altitude. You could not climb over them, could not dive under them. Their guns turned our fighters into aluminum rain." In the weeks that follow, the Thunderbolt becomes the scourge of anything that moves in daylight. Locomotives, trucks, tanks, horse-drawn supply columns. In June alone, 9th Air Force Thunderbolts claim 651 locomotives destroyed, 3,847 trucks, 512 tanks and armored vehicles, over 4,500 horse-drawn wagons. The Wehrmacht is forced into the night. Supply lines choke. Panzer divisions sit fuel-starved. Hauptmann Hans von Luck, commanding a Panzer Grenadier regiment, watches a column evaporate under a single pass. They came in low, so low you could see the pilots' faces, engines roaring, rockets screaming, then the hammer of those 8 machine guns. 20 vehicles turned to burning wreckage in seconds. The men called them Jabos, but these were something worse, flying artillery with sniper accuracy. Even the feared 88mm flak guns struggle to track the fast, low-diving Thunderbolts. The psychological toll is devastating. German soldiers develop an instinctive flinch at the distant rumble of radial engines. They scatter at the first sight of a diving jug, leaving vehicles abandoned on open roads. In the Pacific, the story repeats with even greater ferocity. The 348th Fighter Group over New Guinea discovers the Thunderbolt's durability is perfect for vast distances and brutal conditions. Colonel Neil Kirby leads 4 P-47s against 40 Japanese aircraft over Wewak on October 11, 1943, down 6 himself in one mission, earning the Medal of Honor. Japanese ace Saburo Sakai, who tangles with Thunderbolts later, writes,
Our 20mm cannon that shredded P-40s seemed useless. Dozens of rounds into one Thunderbolt, and it flew away. Their return fire, streams of heavy bullets that tore our aircraft apart. Back in Europe, the Thunderbolt's legend grows darker still. Even against the revolutionary Me-262 jet, the Jug proves it can kill. Pilots learn to catch jets on takeoff or landing when they're slow and vulnerable, or in high-speed dives from altitude. Lieutenant Colonel John C. Meyer of the 352nd Fighter Group downs the first confirmed Me-262 with a P-47 on November 27, 1944. His report is clinical. Dove from 28,000 feet, closed rapidly. Enemy aircraft disintegrated under fire, both engines separated, no parachute. By early 1945, specialized P-47M variants with water methanol injection pushed 2,800 horsepower and 470 miles per hour, fast enough to run down jets in certain regimes. Major George Bostwick of the 63rd Fighter Squadron bags 2 Ma-262s in March. His tactical note: the jets are faster, but they can't turn and they can't take punishment. One good burst from our 8 guns and they come apart like paper. The Thunderbolt has become the universal predator. Air, ground, even the future. And the men who once laughed at it now speak its name with dread. Nearly 800 German fighters surge across the dawn sky, aiming to smash Allied airfields in Belgium and the Netherlands in one devastating blow. At Y-34 Airfield near Metz, home to the 365th Fighter Group, the Hellhawks, the attack catches many Thunderbolts on the ground. German pilots strafe the flight line. 22 P-47s burn. Fuel bowsers explode. Hangars collapse. A captured German pilot is dragged to the command post, still cocky. He points at the burning jugs and sneers in broken English. What do you think of that? Major George R. Brooking, the group operations officer, doesn't flinch. He points past the smoke to the hard stands where ground crews are already bulldozing wreckage aside, preparing for new aircraft. By tomorrow, he says calmly, we'll have 40 brand new ones. How long will it take you to replace your pilots? The smirk dies on the German's face. Within 48 hours, factory-fresh P-47 D-40s roll off transport aircraft from depots in England. The flight line is full again. Across all attacked airfields, the Allies lose 134 aircraft, all replaced within a week. The Luftwaffe loses 271 aircraft and 213 pilots, many of them irreplaceable expertons, squadron leaders, and instructors. These losses can never be made good. The numbers behind the Thunderbolt's dominance are staggering, almost incomprehensible. Republic Aviation produces 15,683 P-47s, more than any other American fighter. At peak, the Farmingdale plant on Long Island completes one every hour, day and night. The new Evansville factory in Indiana, built on empty farmland in 1942, pumps out 500 a month by 1944. Each Thunderbolt demands 65,000 parts, 8 miles of wiring, 2,000 pounds of aluminum. The Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine contains 2,400 precision components. Yet American workers, many women new to factories, assemble them with tolerances finer than peacetime luxury cars. Ammunition flows in torrents. Each sortie carries 3,400 rounds of .50 caliber. With hundreds of Thunderbolts flying daily, consumption tops 10 million rounds a month by mid-1944. Fuel, 25 million gallons for the 9th Air Force alone, shipped across U-boat-infested Atlantic in American-built tankers. And pilots. By 1944, the United States graduates 30,000 pilots a year, more than Germany trained in the entire war. Every P-47 pilot arrives with at least 400 hours, including 100 in advanced fighters, gunnery practice, formation work, instrument training. Late-war German pilots reach the front with fewer than 100 hours total, some as low as 30 in type. The quality gap shows in every encounter. Lieutenant Eugene Roberts, arriving September 1944. I had 420 hours, 75 in the jug. I'd fired at tone targets, studied gun camera film. My first mission, I knew exactly what to do. The German I fought couldn't have had half my time. It wasn't fair. March 1945. Josef Priller, the same man who mocked the Thunderbolt as a pregnant cow in 1943, is interviewed for propaganda. His statement is suppressed as too demoralizing. He calls the P-47 the best fighter bomber ever built. Firepower unprecedented, guns that never jam, never overheat, never run out in normal combat. It carries bombs like a medium bomber, rockets like artillery, fights like a fighter. But worse is what it represents: unlimited American production. They lose 10, we build 20. We lose 1, it's gone forever. Their pilots are better trained than our instructors. They have fuel, ammunition, spares. We have only courage. And courage without resources is just delayed defeat. We laughed in 1943. We are not laughing now. When you hear those 8 guns, death has come calling. That sound haunts us, mechanical, precise, unstoppable. Like everything American, an avalanche of steel and lead. By April 1945, the once mighty Luftwaffe